We're good?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome. Tonight is the third episode in our series for navigating a post-pandemic housing market. So thank you for joining us. We are recording this session, so it will be posted on our YouTube channel. And tonight is the seller's update, talking about foreclosures, short sales, and hardships. I am Jim Heisler, the CEO here at Heartland. If you have any questions about real estate, please give Heartland a call. We'll help you out with that or refer you to a real estate agent. But tonight we have two attorneys that are going to help us out. Both of them are from Smith Amundsen Law Firm, and they will provide you the information. So with that, we're going to jump right to Amber Bishop.
Hi, everyone. I am Amber Bishop from the law firm of Smith Amundsen. I am an attorney there, and I practice in real estate law, banking law, and corporate law. So I'm here today to talk to you about foreclosures and short sales in real estate and other workout agreements, or what we call loss mitigation programs. So the main loss mitigation programs are forbearance, loan modification, deed in lieu, and then short sales. And if none of these loss mitigation programs work for somebody who's in financial difficulty, then the end result is a foreclosure. So we all know that the pandemic has impacted everyone in some way. So this presentation is designed to help you know your options if you're experiencing financial difficulties, and to learn more about purchasing property through a short sale or a foreclosure. So the first thing to know is to always keep in communication with your lender if you're having financial difficulties. From my experience, a lender doesn't want your home. They want to be paid the amount that they lent. So if you're experiencing financial difficulties, reach out to your lender to see what options that you have or what options you may qualify for. They will require you to submit documentation to them so that they can determine what you actually do qualify for. So what is loss mitigation then? As I said, it is also known as workout agreements. So loss mitigation is what the mortgage servicing industry calls the process where borrowers and their lender or loan servicers work together to avoid a foreclosure. So these things are designed to avoid foreclosures, but if they don't work out, the end result is a foreclosure. The first of the workout options is a forbearance. Forbearance is when your mortgage servicer or your lender allows you to temporarily pay your mortgage at a lower payment or pause payments on the mortgage. You'll still have to pay the payment reduction or the pause payments back later. So for example, the lender may allow you to skip a payment for 3 months, but those 3 months of payments will be added back at the end of your loan. They might also allow you to make interest-only payments for a certain amount of time. But again, those principal payments will have to be paid back at the end of the loan. So this is more for a temporary hardship and not a permanent hardship. So let's say you lost your job and you're down on your luck for a little while, but you're currently, looking for employment. So maybe you just have a few months where you need to pause your payments or reduce your payments, but are optimistic about getting a new job in the future. Maybe you already are starting a new job, that kind of thing. So you just missed out on some income for a little while and might need a temporary pause on payments. So that's when a forbearance agreement would come into play. The next thing is the loan modification. A loan modification is a change to the original terms of your mortgage loan. You may be able to modify your loan to extend your term. So maybe you have 10 years left on your loan, but they might modify it to be 15 or 20 years. Then that gives you more time to repay your loan and reduces the amount that you pay every month. Also, if interest rates are lower now than when you locked in the loan, you might be able to modify your loan to get a lower rate. This usually lowers your monthly payments as well. So unlike with a forbearance, which is a temporary change to the loan terms. A loan modification is a permanent change to the terms. And which one of these your lender is able to offer you depends on what you qualified for, which is why they're going to ask you for documentation. And they'll look whether your hardship is a temporary hardship or a more permanent hardship. The next available loss mitigation option is deed in lieu of foreclosure. These are also sometimes called cash for keys. This is where you and your mortgage lender may agree on the termination of your interest in the mortgage property after you default. So if there's a default by you, you might want to, instead of fighting them, just deed the property back to them and walk away from the property. That's when deed in lieus come into play. The mere tender of an executed deed by the mortgager or the recording of a deed by you to the lender does not constitute acceptance of the deed in lieu by the lender. So the lender has to accept a deed in lieu. You can't just go out and record a deed and say, here you go, I'm giving you a deed in lieu. The lender has to agree to it. So as I said, this is sometimes also called cash for keys, but you're not always given anything for the deed. Sometimes I've seen lenders provide a small amount to borrowers for moving expenses or as an incentive to leave, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you're just giving them the deed as to not fight anymore, or maybe you're underwater and just want to give them the deed and walk away. So with a deed in lieu, there's going to be a written agreement and a deed that are needed. The written agreement is sometimes called a settlement agreement. And there's different things that will be in the written agreement. For instance, it'll say in there that the transfer of the property is for fair and adequate consideration, meaning that you've received fair and adequate compensation for the transfer of your property. This consideration might not always, or compensation might not always be monetary. It could be a waiver of the amount owed over the value of a property. So for instance, let's say there's $200,000 owed on your loan and your home's only worth $150,000. So then there's a $50,000 deficiency. Waiver of that deficiency could be what is the adequate consideration for you transferring the property. Or the consideration could be the expenses that you'll save from not fighting the foreclosure. Both of those things can be the consideration, the fair and adequate consideration for entering into a deed in lieu. It'll also say things like the mortgage debt is justly due and owing. So you're not contesting whether or not you owe the money. They lent you the money, so you probably owe the money. So that's typically why they put in there that the mortgage debt is justly due and owing, so that they can say later, look, you said it was justly due and owing, you can't contest this now. Then it'll also say that's an absolute conveyance. Once you've deeded it to the lender, there's no taking it back, really. They have the deed, they'll be the owner. And then in a deed in lieu agreement, pursuant to statute, the deficiency is waived unless it's specifically agreed to by you to not waive it. So unless there's language in the deed in lieu agreement saying you're not waiving the deficiency, then by operation of law, the deficiency is waived if you do a deed in lieu. And oops, let's see if I can go back. Yeah, so the transfer of a deed in lieu is always subject to all other liens on your property. So if you're just deeding the property to them and you have a bunch of liens on your property, say you didn't, mow your lawn for a year and you got a bunch of weed cutting liens from the city, or didn't pay taxes, real estate, or not real estate taxes, but income taxes, you might have an IRS lien on your property. All those liens are not extinguished in a deed in lieu. So your lender, if those liens are on the property, will take subject to those liens. So your lender might not want to do a deed in lieu if you have a bunch of junior liens on the property, because they would either have to pay those liens or they would have to foreclose anyway to get rid of those liens. So that's a consideration that your lender takes into consideration when they're determining whether a deed in lieu would be an option for you. So then the next loss mitigation option is a short sale. This is when you're selling the property for less than what is owed on the mortgage. So for example, if you're selling your property for $100,000 when $150,000 is owed on the mortgage, the lender has to agree to this since they're taking a loss, and 100% of the proceeds go to the lender. So the lender is going to try to get as much from the property as they can. So they could always request a higher purchase price or may require a buyer to forego getting a survey or other inspections paid for by the seller, so that that's more money into their pocket. A short sale is the difference between the sale price and the mortgage amount. And the difference may be forgiven by the lender, but it's not always the case. This is because there are two parts to all mortgages. The first is the lien against the property that is used to secure the loan, and the lien protects the lender in case a borrower can't repay. It gives the lending institution the right to sell a property for repayment. And this part of the mortgage is waived in a short sale, the lien is. But the second part of the mortgage is the promise to pay. Lenders can still enforce this portion either through a new note or the collection of the deficiency. So it just depends on what your lender wants to do, if they're going to waive that $50,000 deficiency in the example that I gave you, or if they're going to try to collect on that deficiency. And short sales typically take longer than regular sales because the lender has to approve everything, and the lender might require a significant amount of documentation so that they can determine whether or not a short sale is a good deal for them. So if none of these things are good options for you, then the remedy that the lender will invoke will be a foreclosure. When you purchase your property, you're the owner of the property, and the lender records a lien or a mortgage on the property. The lender has the right to then foreclose on its mortgage and take ownership of the property so that they can sell it and get paid what they're owed. This process is called a foreclosure. So the foreclosure is a statutory process. So there are rules that the lender and its counsel have to follow. So I'm going to walk you through the foreclosure process. The first thing that you will receive if you're facing a foreclosure is default notice. It'll tell you when you missed your payments, how much is owed, how much to cure, those kind of things. So a default notice may be required under your mortgage or under the foreclosure regulations, depending on what type of mortgage you have. There might be a 120-day waiting period before a lender can file a foreclosure. That essentially gives you time to submit loss mitigation documents, as we discussed before, to try to avoid a foreclosure. But after that, your lender will file a complaint, and the complaint is the document that gets filed with the circuit court in the county in which your property is located. It states the rights of your lender to foreclose, and it also states the default that has occurred. Once that complaint is filed, then you'll get served with the summons and the complaint. Sometimes lenders use sheriffs, or they could use a private process server as well, but they'll have somebody come to your house or come to your place of employment and serve you with the physical papers. That's what we mean by service of the summons and complaint. They will send somebody with those papers to give them to you, and then you're considered served once you have those papers. After you're served with a summons and complaint, there is what's called a reinstatement period. And the reinstatement period is 90 days from the date of service. So it allows you to pay the amount of the default and get back into good standing on your payments. So let's say there's 5 months of missed payments. If during these 90 days after service, you pay those 5 months of payments plus any costs that the lender has incurred, then that's considered reinstatement. And you only get to do this once in 5 years on the same mortgage. So you can't do this every time they file a foreclosure. If you've done it once before, you have to wait 5 years before you can do it again. Then after you've been served with a summons, it's time to answer the complaint. You have 30 days from the time you're served to answer the complaint. So this is where you either admit or deny each allegation of the complaint and state any defenses that you have, if any. And then once that answer is filed, the next thing that will happen will be entry of judgment. If you don't file an answer, you will be found to be in default, and then the judgment will enter on default. Or if you did file an answer, the lender's counsel will file what's called a motion for summary judgment, and you'll have time to respond to that motion. So you can respond to that as well if you'd like to. And then at the entry of judgment, the court will determine if all the paperwork's in order, and the lender's counsel will have to approve up the amount that's owed, and then a judgment will be entered. After the judgment is entered, you'll receive either a notice of default or a notice of entry of judgment, depending on what you did in the case, saying that judgment has been entered or that you've been defaulted, and the amount that you have and the deadline for what's called the redemption. So this default notice will have the deadline for redemption and the amount that you can pay in order to redeem the property. So redeeming the property is paying what is owed in full. So in a normal foreclosure, the redemption period is either 3 months from the time the judgment's entered or 7 months from the date you were served, whichever is longer. So it just depends on how fast the case moves as whether it'll be 3 months or 7 months. But you have some time after the entry of judgment to pay off the loan in full if you're able to maybe refinance with a different lender, or come up with the money to pay off the loan. If you're not able to redeem, then after the redemption period has expired, your lender will set the property for a sheriff sale. In order to have a sheriff sale, there must be publication of the sale date for 3 consecutive weeks. That's published in the newspaper, and then you'll also get a notice in the mail of when the sale date is. So the sheriff sale, essentially, the lender's counsel will show up at either the sheriff's office, or they do have other selling officers who are able to handle foreclosure sales that are private companies. So you either go through the sheriff or go through this private company to take the property to foreclosure sale. And the winning bidder at the sale will be issued the deed. So at the sale, lender's counsel will have what's called an opening bid. It might be the entire amount that's owed, or it might be something less, depending on how your lender wants to proceed. And then if there's other people bidding at the sale, they can then bid more than the lender, and whoever has highest bid gets the property. And then the a deficiency or a surplus will be calculated based off the winning bid. So let's say there's $200,000 that was owed to your lender, and the winning bid is $175,000. There's a $25,000 deficiency based off the winning bid. And anyone can bid at the sale. So sometimes investors will monitor and bid at foreclosure sales to try to get a property and flip that property and make money off of it. So after the sheriff's sale is completed, then the lender's counsel has to go into court and get an order confirming sale from the court. If everything's done properly, then the court will confirm the sale, and the lender will have the deed issued to whoever was the winning bidder. And then there's a 30-day possession after confirmation of sale. So you still have 30 days after the confirmation order is entered to have possession of your property. But after those 30 days, you can either leave voluntarily or you'll be facing eviction from the property, since the property has then gone through the entire foreclosure process. So some key takeaways from all this is to work with your lender if you're in financial distress, or if you're wanting a good deal, you can think about purchasing a short sale or a foreclosure. Karen will talk more about the due diligence and purchasing a short sale or a foreclosure. So I will now turn it over to her. But before I do, if there's any questions, my contact information is up here, and you can feel free to email me or give me a call if you have any questions on any of this.
I'm ready to go.
Let's get that one.
Hi, everybody. I'm just advancing my slides here. I'm Karen Tobin with Smith Amundsen. And Amber did an excellent job there explaining all of the different facets of short sales, foreclosures, and all of those areas. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is the due diligence side of it when you are going to purchase a short sale or a foreclosure. I'll focus on those two things. So what is due diligence? Well, due diligence involves investigating various aspects of the physical and the financial condition of the property, simply put. And there are so many areas of due diligence, and it becomes so much more important to do excellent due diligence on a foreclosure and a short sale, even more so than even a traditional sale. And the reason for that is, well, there's many reasons, but the short sales and foreclosures, there's with a short sale, for instance, the lender has a parameters for which they can accept that they can accept a package, an offer, and they can't stray outside of that too much. So there's certain types of due diligence that become very important for you. Another reason why it's important to do excellent due diligence is because, you know, in a foreclosure, in some situations, a home has sat for a long period of time. So we really want to know everything about the property we can get our hands on, because you're walking into a situation that could potentially be more riskier, riskier and more costly than in traditional situations. So the first thing that in due diligence that I'd like to talk about is the title review. We definitely want to get our hands on the title report. This will provide you a history of who the previous owners are. It's going to provide you, it'll reveal things such as easements and encroachments and where the property lines are. And it'll provide the property's legal description. So you want to definitely get the title report to show the legal description. Don't rely on other things that you've seen for the property's legal description. It's going to also show the liens on record and encroachments. judgments, and if there's been a judgment of bankruptcy on the property, if there has been a foreclosure by a lender filed on the property. So you want to be aware of what's filed against the property in those respects. And a buyer should purchase the title insurance because that'll give you the assurance that it's been reviewed by a title agent and that you're buying the property in a clear, that the title has been cleared. That's just the title aspect of the property. The second thing, if you did listen to our presentation a couple weeks ago and heard the inspector talk about doing the inspections, hire a reputable inspector to do the inspections. Even though your home is sold in a short sale or a foreclosure in an as-is situation, that doesn't mean just, forget about the inspections, because the inspections are going to tell you exactly what you're going to need to pay to get the home into the position it needs to be in. So you want to hire an inspector that's going to, talk to you, or that's going to reveal the structural soundness of the building or the residential home, and if the home is built to code. If there's any roof issues or heating or electrical or plumbing, you want to reveal all of those things that a good inspector with a trained eye can reveal for you, and what's going to end up costing you a lot of money in the long run. So other types of inspections that, short sales and foreclosures, could also face are things such as pest infestation, septic inspections, chimney inspections, and water quality, another one. So you want to make sure that you're looking into the condition of this property and know what you're buying, and get costs for those repairs. And the survey is the next item, and this will reveal any encroachments on the property and provide you with your property lines. And don't use an old survey. Lender, if you're going to be financing the property as well, you don't want to use a survey. They won't accept a survey that's an old survey most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So this will become important because you want to know if, for instance, your something on your property is encroaching on somebody else's property, as well as the reverse, if somebody else's property or building or anything is encroaching on your property lines. And a survey will show you that. The next item is the appraisal of the property. You want to, especially with short sales, you want to really get a fair handle on what the value of that property is. And this is again where an experienced real estate agent can really come in and help you, because they're going to be able to run those comps, those comparable sales that have recently taken place, and give you a fair assessment and tell you why this property is worth more than the next door neighbor's one, because they're going to be able to compare those aspects of those individual homes. Now, the lender will do their own appraisal, and you want to, when you're presenting your offer, have the comps that are going to give you substantiate the facts that you feel affords you the why you're offering them the price that you're offering them. So when you combine things such as the appraisal and the comps that you've done, and also the estimates to repair the home, and you've talked to maybe the county department to see what else is on title, or you've gone to the and talked to the other neighbors in the community, and you've gone to the sheriff's office perhaps to learn a little bit more about the community, you can really get a fair handle on and understand what you want to offer on that property. Some due diligence in short sales, some other due diligence in short sales is when you might not know, when you're looking at a house, whether the home is a short sale. The homeowner does have to submit an application to list their home as a short sale. So it's not just that, they can go ahead and move forward and sell the home for less than what it's worth. There's an actual application with the lender that they have to complete. If there's a homeowners association in the neighborhood or in the community, You want to make sure you get your hands on their underlying documents. And by that, I mean the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. And you want to know from the association board whether there are any unpaid dues by that homeowner or that home that you're looking at. And you want to know what restrictions are in the community. Is this a community you want to live in? Are there parameters that don't make you feel comfortable? If you are one that has a camper and want to live in, have your camper at your house and that association doesn't allow for that, those types of things become really important to know up front before you move forward with a purchase. So, and you also want to know what the reserves and what the minutes are from that association. Make sure that they're in the communities in good standing. Or if it's a condominium, you want to take a look at their reserves as well. Steps to submit a short sale offer. With traditional sales, you want to get pre-approved for financing, but in a short sale or a foreclosure, it's critical. The lender that has that package is going to want to know that you are financially able to take the place of someone that currently can't afford the home or is going through financial difficulties. So that actual pre-approval letter is submitted with your package. And another tip as far as finding listings, if you're looking for pre-foreclosure listings or public records at the county clerk, a real estate agent can definitely help you sort through that and find listings and help you with that. So as I said previously, know how much is owed on the home, and that'll give you an idea of what that lender is going to be willing to accept in their offer. Just that knowledge. How much it's going to cost you to fix up that home is the other factor, and the comps. Even if your lender accepts the offer, the lender still has to clear title after that. So if there's several lien holders underneath his loan, it's going to be a longer process because they've got to release their collateral on that title. So you have to be more patient than in traditional sale. So what should your offer have? It's going to include the contract itself. It's going to have your earnest money. And of course, a lender in a short sale situation is going to want to see that it's a substantial offer of earnest money. Cash is king. And it also helps if you're willing to offer to pay, closing costs. That's another cost that a lender would have to come up with. So anything that makes your offer a little bit more attractive, if you happen to know that there's some, did I do that? Did I advance that? Oops. There we go. You're also going to want to have the pre-approval letter from the lender, the comps, the comparables that you've come up with your from the area, and the proof of funds may be necessary. The lender may ask for that, and by proof of funds, they're going to mean your bank statements and additional information you can provide the lender that shows that you're qualifying. And then the other important thing that you want to include with a short sale offer are any contingencies you're adding to that offer. For instance, that this offer is subject to lender approval. Well, we know it's going to be, but it's good to put that in writing. You also want to provide that, you might want to also provide that you are not going to wait, 6 months for the lender to get back to you. The amount of time a lender takes to get back to you on a short sale offer could vary by how much they have on their plate at the time, or when the actual homeowner that's trying to sell their home by short sale, when they put in their paperwork to application. It could vary just by the staff that they have at the lender's office. You might also want to put in there, in one of your contingencies, the cap on the amount you are willing to pay for foreclosure or for the closing costs. maybe 1 point, or there's definitely different ways you can go about making sure you've got that safety in the offer. And you might also want to put in there that the offer is contingent on your inspection. So those are all certain things that you can put in your offer. But the more cash you can put down, the more attractive it is for a lender. Some disadvantages of a short sale, as Amber might have said before, a short sale doesn't necessarily protect your credit score. It's still going to impact it, but it certainly is better than a foreclosure on your record. And another disadvantage is that a lender could still collect on a deficiency. That is a risk that you do take. You will have to leave the house as soon as it's sold. In a foreclosure process, it is a lengthier process. But the advantages on the flip side for a short sale are that you might be able to get that deficiency waived. And a lot of lenders do waive the deficiency. And it's important to also note that if they do waive that deficiency amount of 50 grand, that is considered income to the person that is leaving the home. There is an act right now that will be expiring on January 1st, 2026. I'm not sure what will happen after that, but you won't end up owing taxes on that income now, but it's just something to keep in mind. And the biggest plus of the short sale is that you won't have a foreclosure on your record. For a foreclosure sale of a property, there is a risk to the lender in that they have to be very careful that there could be errors and omissions that could render the foreclosure judgment void. And things such as not having the correct legal description on the paperwork can render it void. Not giving proper notice to the homeowner can render the whole thing void, and competing claims and liens. The other risk in foreclosure properties is that you take subject to liens that are superior. So and real estate taxes are never wiped away. So like when we get a foreclosure in our office, the first thing that we're asking the lender to do is go pay those real estate taxes. Those are some risks in foreclosures. And there's also the risk that even after the foreclosure takes place, the homeowner can't redeem after the sale, as Amber discussed earlier. Amber mentioned other types of liens, but I want to just mention some other municipal liens that you kind of don't think of that could be liens on your property, and that's debris on the property. They can fine your home and put a lien on your property for things like that. Demolition, or there's sometimes are environmental based liens on property. There could be utility liens placed on the property, unpaid taxes to the county or the township. So, so some people go out and they purchase the taxes on a home. And the idea is there that you can purchase the taxes, and then the homeowner would be up to their responsibility to pay you for those taxes that were redeemed. If they don't pay, then that's when you are able to go and pursue getting title on the property. So that's one way people obtain property. So when there are the owner's title policy, I was mentioning the owner's title policy. When it's a foreclosure property, the first thing that our office does is orders the minutes of foreclosure, which is basically ordering the title on the property. It confirms the position of the lender, the lien holder, and after the foreclosure process is complete, you still need to then take the next steps to evict the tenant from the property, or evict the borrowers from the property. So there's still that risk to contend with. And then there's the other operational issues that you're going to have to deal with foreclosure property, and that's dealing with the utilities, the homeowners association or property management company in a foreclosure situation. And also in foreclosure property, sometimes you can't even gain access to the property, which complicates things even more. So all the more important to buy the title insurance. If foreclosure property is riskier, it just is, because you'll have, there's a chance that perhaps some of the properties aren't as well taken care of during the foreclosure process. So you are also taking that risk. And in tax foreclosed property, you typically cannot even get in to inspect the property. But in HUD or real estate owned property in those homes, they can usually be inspected because they are listed by the real estate agents. In HUD properties, there is a 2-week window after the winning bidder gets the property in which they can go back in and inspect the property. And they turn on the utilities so that they can be tested, and at least you know the condition of the plumbing and electrical and things like that. Again, buy title insurance. Negotiate with the lender to allow for you to make up schedules. Amber was talking about as the person that's potentially going through the foreclosure. I also just wanted to bring up when you are going to speak with the lender, just make sure you are have your act together. In that, bring things with you and prepare for that meeting in a way that, because the lender wants to work things out. So some of the things that you'll bring with you, the mortgage statements, and include and tell them about any other mortgages that you have on the home, the second mortgage if you have it. Include and bring with you all your monthly debt that you are up against, you know, your car payments, your student loans, and paint the picture for them, show them what you're up against. And then also bring in your proof of your daily pay stubs if you have that, because they can see that, you know, laying it out, if there's something that they can work out for you, they will, they want to. Stuck. Oh. Here I am. Yeah. An attorney can assist with working with the lender, and it also takes some of the, sometimes it's difficult to talk to the lender in person yourself, and an attorney can be that go-between and help work towards a solution. And they can also help determine if anything was unjustly done in the process. So it definitely is a helpful step to go talk to an attorney in that front. Determine whether there's any extraordinary circumstances to plead your case and negotiate the loan. So what's the outlook on foreclosures in Illinois? Their foreclosures and short sales, there's a very small amount. Since the pandemic, I think that we are, according to the Midwest real estate data, in the February 15th of 2022 report that came out, 96% of all our sales are traditional, and only 2% are short sales and 2% are foreclosure. So, you know, we're doing great, and McHenry's doing great, but there are still foreclosures, there are still distressed properties, and it surprises me that still Illinois is still in the top 5 of the nation, but you know, it has to do with population too. So California is up there, followed by Texas and Florida, New York, then us. But So while foreclosure purchases can be relatively quicker than short sales, the downside is that foreclosures may come with more repair work, and they have sat vacant for a long period of time sometimes. So you just have to be careful and do all your due diligence. Make sure you have some great professionals at your side when you're going through the process, so that it alleviates any stress. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, don't leave. Excellent. Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.
So I think one of the best things that what you're talking about here are a lot of complicated issues. And I think the viewers are probably saying, wow, this is overwhelming. But here's what I want to make sure you realize, the viewers, you've got a whole team of experts working to put this together. So on our board here, we've got title people, we've got the lenders, we've got home warranty people, we've got inspectors, certainly attorneys, lenders, title, lots of people, property insurers, so insurance agents, to help ensure that the process comes together. It's not your job as the buyer to make sure of all that happening. Your real estate agent, not only do they bring real estate expertise, but they're also going to help coordinate the whole transaction. So they're going to work with all of these team members, if you will, to put this transaction together. And we did talk about, you kind of mentioned, but the property sitting vacant, we have a lot of well and septics here in McHenry County. And when those well and septics sit unused for any length of time, now they start to decrease their abilities and the testing abilities drop off. So there's lots of people, you need a real estate agent, you need an attorney. Here in the Chicagoland market, use of attorneys is very normal. When you leave the Chicagoland market and go outside of that portion in Illinois, sometimes you'll find the use of attorneys declines a bit. And I would just tell you that you need an attorney, because who else is going to review the title? Who's going to talk with you about the paperwork that you're signing? That's the attorney's job. And for anyone else to do that, there could be liability for them to do that. So thank you. Thanks to Amber. So Karen Tobin, Smith Amundsen Law Firm. Amber Bishop was with us as well. Any final thoughts?
There was one question.
We did answer the one from Rosa, I think.
Oh, you did?
So the source of income being taxable.
Okay.
Yep. So is Rosa still watching? So if there's any follow-up
If
questions,
you have any follow-up questions, Rosa, yeah, let us
or
know.
anybody,
Anyone.
but the question was, Karen, you answered your portion. They were asking about Amber's. So when in a short sale, when the lender does forgive a portion of the value, does that become taxable income? So you did cover that a little bit and had a slide on that. So with that, we are finished here. Thank you very much. Again, we are recording this, so this will all be posted online again. I know there's a wealth of information, and you know, some of it may have gone over your head. Go watch it again, or certainly call Heartland. We're happy to help you out. Thanks much. Thanks for participating.